issues. After all, what does preserving the planet have to do with saving the soul? It is widely assumed that climate change and the exploitation of natural resources are matters concerning scientists, technocrats, and politicians. Yet, the preoccupation of the highest spiritual authority in the worldwide Orthodox Church, namely the Ecumenical Patriarch, with the ecological crisis, demonstrates that we cannot have two ways of looking at the world, religious on the one hand and worldly on the other. We cannot separate our concern for human dignity, human rights, or social justice from concern for ecological preservation and sustainability. The intertwining spiral that can descend or ascend. If we value each individual made in the image of God, and if we value every particle of God's creation, then we will care for each other and for our world. In religious terms, the way we relate to nature directly reflects the way we relate to God and to our fellow human beings, as well as the way we relate to the biodiversity of creation. At stake is not just our respect for biodiversity, but our very survival. Scientists calculate that those most harmed by global warming in the future will be the most vulnerable and marginalized. It is those living in the typhoon-prone Philippines who are being forced not only to deal with the miseries of flooded homes and prolonged disruption, but to make fundamental changes in their way of life. And there is a particularly bitter injustice about the fact that those suffering its worst ravages have done least to contribute to it. They are the victims. The ecological crisis is directly related to the ethical challenge of eliminating poverty and advocating human rights. Food security was the foremost issue at the United Nations climate change discussions in Geneva this month. We are convinced that Asia holds many of the answers to a more biocentric worldview. Western industrialized nations must be humble to listen and learn. Only a few days ago in India, the world's public health leaders concluded that fossil fuels are detrimental to human health and well-being. And the Philippines, already a leader in geothermal and hydropower, are committed to a path from low carbon to zero in a partnership between the public and private sectors. This means that global warming is a moral crisis and a moral challenge. The dignity and rights of human beings are intimately and integrally related to the poetry, and we would dare to say the rights of the earth itself. Human rights in the West have long been criticized for individualism, so will we recognize the faces of the thousands, men and women, mothers and children, elderly and disabled, lost when Typhoon Yolanda hit Guyana at 4:50 a.m. on November 8, 2013. On that day, by providence or serendipity, our church, our Orthodox Church, celebrates the feast of the holy angels. Will we remember the haunting photographs of that nightmare? The number of deaths horrifies us, but what most painfully reaches our feelings is the individual faces of loss and terror. And what about the rights of the earth, of which we are a part, and apart from which we cannot exist? Who will speak for the voiceless resources of our planet? Who will protect the silent diversity of its species? Will we accept responsibility for pushing our environment over the tipping point? In the discussions about climate change, some take a fatalistic attitude, arguing that we should give up all efforts to prevent further changes and instead direct our efforts towards adapting to the inevitable. But the response from those experiencing the effect of climate change is clear. Adaptation is not enough. Fundamental changes need to be made at the level of global policy making and made as a matter of urgency. Industrialized countries have unquestionably contributed most to atmospheric pollution. In our effort then to contain and reverse global warming, we must honestly ask ourselves, will we in the West, in more affluent countries, sacrifice our self-indulgence and consumerism? Will we direct our folly of faith, citizens of the vote, and political leaders altogether? Only a few weeks ago, His Holiness Pope Francis, who recently visited this beautiful country, sent an appeal inviting everybody to join each other in order to work for peace and nature, because it is a common responsibility, he said. Just before that, he said that it is a sacred right for people to have earth, to have cows, home, and to have work. And then he proceeded to say and to invite everybody without any distinction, to work for protecting nature and for saving or bringing back peace on earth. Dear friends, you will now appreciate why a religious leader is concerned with the ecological crisis. With the voices of those angels who died in Typhoon Yolanda echoing in our ears, we must make the strongest possible hope for change and justice at the climate conference in Paris next December. This is our ethical and honorable obligation. This is our word of promise and hope to the entire world.